If you've been feeling mentally slower lately, losing your train of thought, rereading the same sentence, walking into a room and forgetting why you went in, and your doctor told you everything looks normal, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not imagining it, and you're almost certainly not losing your mind. Brain fog is real, it's measurable, and in the next few minutes I'm going to show you what's actually causing yours. My name is Dr. Vitas, and tonight I'm going to show you what's really causing your brain fog and how to switch it off. Here's the frustrating part about brain fog. It rarely shows up on a standard blood test. There's no single number a doctor can point to and say, there it is, that's your problem. So a lot of people get told everything looks fine, and then they walk out still feeling like their thoughts are moving through mud. That experience of being told you're healthy while feeling anything but is genuinely disorienting. It makes people wonder if it's all in their head. It isn't. Brain fog is not a disease, and it's not a diagnosis. It's a cluster of symptoms: slower thinking, poor focus, forgetfulness, mental tiredness, that researchers have actually measured as real drops in processing speed and working memory. In plain terms, working memory is your brain's ability to hold on to a thought long enough to use it. When that slips, you feel it as fog, and it is far more common than most people realize. Surveys have found that around 2 out of 3 adults report meaningful trouble concentrating at least once a week. So if this is you, you're in very large company, and that's the first thing I want you to hold on to as we go. Because here's the good news, and it's the reason I made this video. Brain fog almost always has a findable cause, often more than one, and most of those causes are things you can actually do something about. So let's start with the question nobody seems to ask, the one that changes everything. You'd think brain fog would mostly affect people who neglect their health, but some of the foggiest people I talk to are the ones trying the hardest, eating well, exercising, taking their supplements. So why them? Part of the answer is that we've quietly asked the human brain to do something it was never built for. Your attention was designed to focus on one meaningful thing at a time. Instead, most of us now spend the day switching between a dozen things a minute: a message here, an email there, a notification, a tab, back to the first thing. Every one of those switches has a cost. Your brain doesn't move cleanly from task to task. It drags a little residue from each one along with it. Do that for 8 hours and your mental clarity is running on fumes by mid-afternoon. Not because anything is wrong with you, but because the system is overloaded. Then layer on the modern basics that quietly erode clarity. Sleep that looks like enough hours on paper but isn't actually. Restful. Meals that spike and crash your energy. A low, constant hum of stress that never fully switches off. None of these are dramatic. That's exactly why they get missed. Brain fog is usually not one big problem. It's several small drains running at the same time, and together they pull you under. And this is where it gets useful because you don't have to fix all of them. You usually just have to find the 1 or 2 that matter most for you. So let's find them. Here's something almost nobody tells you, and it's the most practical thing in this whole video. When your fog tends to hit is one of the biggest clues to why it's happening. Pay attention to your own pattern for a few days. If your fog is worst in the morning, if you wake up already cloudy and it takes hours to feel human, that points strongly towards sleep. Not just how long you slept, but how well. You can spend 8 hours in bed and still get poor quality rest, and your brain pays for that the next day. Because a lot of the overnight cleanup and memory filing your brain does depends on deep, uninterrupted sleep. If that's your pattern, sleep quality is where your attention belongs, and I've made a whole video breaking that down, which I'll point you to at the end. If your fog shows up mainly after meals, especially that heavy, thick-headed feeling an hour after lunch, that points toward the way your body is handling energy and blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes and then drops hard, your brain feels that crash as fog and sluggishness. That's a different problem with a different fix. And again, it's one we go deep on in its own video. And if your fog builds through the day and peaks when you're stressed or overstretched, wired but unable to think, that points toward your nervous system and the constant low-grade stress load I mentioned earlier. Your brain and your stress response are deeply linked, and when the stress signal never fully powers down, clarity is one of the first things to go. So the timing tells you the neighborhood. Now let me show you the hidden causes that hide behind the timing, the ones standard checkups routinely miss. Let's talk about the quiet causes, the ones that don't show up on a basic panel unless someone specifically looks for them. The first is low-grade inflammation. This is not the inflammation of a swollen ankle. It's a low, silent, body-wide state that can follow poor diet, poor sleep, extra weight, or lingering illness, and it directly dampens how clearly your brain communicates with itself. You don't feel it as pain, you feel it as fog. It's one of the most underappreciated drivers there is, and it's worth understanding on its own. The second is nutrient gaps. A handful of specific shortfalls hit the brain hard. Low iron means your blood carries less oxygen, and a brain starved of oxygen feels slow. Low vitamin B12, a nutrient your nerves depend on, can produce fog, forgetfulness, and mental fatigue that mimic much scarier conditions. Low vitamin D and low levels of the healthy fats found in fish are also tied to poorer focus and mood. The frustrating thing is that a standard checkup doesn't always test for these unless you ask. So if your fog is stubborn, these are worth asking your doctor to actually measure. The third is dehydration, and I know how unglamorous that sounds, but the effect is real. Your brain is mostly water, and even mild dehydration measurably drops concentration and short-term memory. Most people running on coffee and not much else are quietly underhydrated all day. The fourth is hormonal change, and this one deserves real respect. A thyroid that's running slightly slow is a classic hidden cause of fog, low energy, and forgetfulness, and it's easy to miss. And for many women, the years around perimenopause and menopause bring very real changes in focus and memory that are too often dismissed. If that's the season of life you're in, your fog may have a specific, addressable cause, and you deserve to have it taken seriously. Now, I want to be responsible here because this matters. The vast majority of brain fog is caused by the everyday things we've been talking about, and it lifts once you address them. It is very rarely a sign of something serious. But because I care about you getting this right, here's the honest line. If your fog came on suddenly and severely, if it's paired with things like slurred speech, weakness on one side, vision changes, or sudden confusion, that is not ordinary fog. That's a reason to seek medical care promptly. And if your fog is persistent, getting worse, or you simply can't shake it after working on the basics, that's your cue to see a doctor and ask specifically about your thyroid, your iron, your B12, your vitamin D, and your blood sugar. Not to frighten you, but so you can rule things out and get a clear answer, which is exactly what you deserve. For everyone else, the path forward is genuinely encouraging. So let's make it practical. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to pull the one or two levers that matter most for you and let clarity return. Here's where I'd start. Begin with the input that fixes the most at once, which is real rest. Protect your sleep like it's a medical treatment because it is one. Even shifting toward more consistent, better quality sleep tends to lift the fog faster than anything else. If mornings are your worst time, that's your signal to start here. Next, steady your energy. Instead of meals that spike and crash you, build meals around protein, fiber, and whole foods so your brain gets a smooth, even fuel supply instead of a roller coaster. If your fog is worst after lunch, this is your lever. And something as simple as a 10-minute walk after eating can noticeably blunt that after-meal slump. Then, hydrate before you caffeinate. Front-load water in your morning before you reach for coffee, and you'll often feel a sharpness return that no amount of caffeine was giving you. Protect your attention like the finite resource it is. Give your brain stretches of single-tasking, 20 or 30 minutes on one thing with the notifications off. You are not being unproductive. You are letting your mind actually think, which is the whole point. And move your body daily, even a little. Movement increases blood flow to the brain and is one of the most reliable, best proven ways to clear mental fog that exists. It's not optional. It's one of your strongest tools. So here's what I want you to walk away with. Your brain fog is not a character flaw, it's not laziness, and it's very rarely the beginning of decline. It's a signal, your brain telling you that something in the system needs attention. And a signal is a gift, because it can be read, and it can be answered. Notice when your fog hits. Let that timing point you to the cause. Pull the one or two levers that fit your pattern, and give it a little time. For most people, the fog doesn't just lift. Clarity comes back sharper than they remembered it could be. If this finally put words to how you've been feeling, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of thing we make clear here at XENOVITAS. And if your fog is worst in the morning, watch our video on deep sleep next. If it hits you after lunch, watch the one on the after lunch crash. I'll see you there.